Hello everyone. The question says an object moves along the x-axis. According to the equation, x position equals 3.10 t squared minus 2t plus 3, where x is in meters and t is in seconds. Determine the average speed between t equals 1.50 and 3.10 seconds. How do you determine the average speed, the average velocity? What is the equation? You have the v average equal to delta x over delta t. What is the delta t? What is the change in time? Let's just go over here. X final minus x initial divided by t final minus t initial. What is the initial time? The initial time is 1.50 seconds. The final time is 3.10 seconds. Good. What are you going to write down in the numerator? You're going to write down here 3.10 minus 1.5 seconds, right? What do you put in the numerator? The numerator, you put down the corresponding positions. How do you find the position? You have to plug in into the equation the time, the final time. What is that final time? 3.10 seconds. And then you calculate and then you put the answer here, right? Minus the position x at t equal to 1.5 seconds. What does that mean? You're going to go back to the equation. You're going to, every time you see t, you're going to plug in 1.50. And then you're going to get an answer for that and then also plug that in. Make sense? Good. So, this way you determine the positions, the change in time, and then you're going to give me the answer. I'm not going to do this. It's very simple. If the answer turns out to be negative, you just take the absolute value. Why? Because the problem is asking you for the speed. The speed is always positive. Velocity could be positive and negative. Positive or negative. Moving on to part B, determine the instantaneous speed at 1.5 seconds. How do you go from average to instantaneous? Instantaneous velocity is the same equation, delta x over delta t, but now you have to shrink delta t and make it approach 0. Delta t approaching 0. All of this really means dx over dt. What does that mean? You have to take the derivative with respect to time. The derivative of what? The position equation. dt of 3.10 t squared minus 2.00 t plus 3.00. How do you take the derivative, guys? The 2 is going to come down. You are left with t minus 2.00. What's the derivative of a constant? 0. The t also disappears. That's it. This is the expression for the velocity. If you want to determine the instantaneous velocity at a certain time, you have to plug in the time and find the whatever speed or instantaneous speed you're looking for. If the answer turns out to be positive or negative, take the absolute value and make sure it's positive because we're talking about still speed. Next part, determine the instantaneous speed at 3.10 seconds. Same concept, guys. Instantaneous speed. You take the equation, you plug in your values. Next, determine the average acceleration. How do you determine the average acceleration? The equation is delta v over delta t. What is delta t? What is the change in time? T final minus t initial. V final minus v initial is what you put in the numerator. How do you determine the change in time? T final minus t initial. 3.10 minus 1.5. What do you put down in the numerator? The corresponding velocities. How do you determine the corresponding velocities? You have your velocity equation. You plug in 3.10 seconds. You determine the velocity. Minus, you plug in what value? The initial time. Plug in, you get the initial velocity, and you get the average acceleration by taking the ratio. If the answer is negative, just take the absolute value. Determine the instantaneous acceleration at t equal to 1.5 seconds. Instantaneous acceleration. How do you determine the instantaneous acceleration? dv over dt. Remember this beautiful velocity equation that you have here? Now you have to take the derivative d dt. 2 times 3.10 t minus 2.00. What's the derivative of constant? That's 0. What is the derivative of the 2 times 3.10 t? It's just 2 times 3.10, which is going to give you 6.20. You have 6.20, right? Is equal to the acceleration, guys. Now notice there's no variable next to it like t. What does that mean? For all times, the acceleration is 6.20, and that's exactly what we have here. That's exactly what we have here. Final part is asking you, at what time is the object at rest? Rest means velocity 0. You are going to the velocity equation and you are setting a condition. Where is the velocity equation? Right here. Is it given to you in the problem? No, you have to derive it. Pull it down. V equal to 2 times 3.10, that's going to give you 6.20. T minus 2.00. You are setting a condition. You are setting the velocity equal to 0. What are you going to do? Add both sides. 2.00. 2.00 divided by 6.20 is equal to the time. I let you do this on your calculators because it's not my job, it's your job to do it. Okay, that's the end of this problem.